Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today I got a fun and exciting episode for you guys this evening because we're going to be talking about the recently released, as of under 24 hours ago, Golden Axe port from the Sega arcade board to the Neo Geo MVS, AES, and Neo Geo CD. This was done by Hoffman. He originally did another port, Shinobi, over on the actual Neo Geo, and I didn't cover that one because I was on vacation for the holiday break. But honestly, getting Golden Axe ported over to the Neo Geo is absolutely insanely impressive, and it is a ton of fun. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. It definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But the amount of effort on display here to port an entire game from one platform to another is outstanding. And just so you know, I am playing the Neo Geo CD version of the game today because it has an enhanced orchestral soundtrack that just kind of makes the game that much more fun. It's available on AES and MVS, and it's going to have all of the original soundtrack converted over to Neo Geo sound hardware. But on the Neo Geo CD side of things, it is fun just to be able to get a completely new soundtrack like Sega released this on CD back in the day. And honestly, if you didn't pay too much attention to everything on display, you'd probably have no idea this was actually being played on a Neo Geo CD, or in this instance, the Neo Geo CD core from Mr. FPGA. Now, I did late last night test this on my original Neo Geo CDZ, worked from start to finish, absolutely had a blast, did exactly what I expected it to, and really honestly felt like a retail release game. And I know it's the same case over on the AES and MVS, and of course this will work under emulation as well. Anything that can run a Neo Geo game is going to run Golden Axe, and considering this is one of Sega's best early beat-em-up games, of course it's going to be every bit as fun. And you're always going to have to beat a gnome like it owes you money to get those potions out for the magic. And if for some reason you've never played Golden Axe before, you 100% owe it to yourself to do so. And now honestly, one of the most fun ways to do it's actually on Neo Geo hardware, which just absolutely boggles the mind, because this is one of Sega's most famous franchises, and seeing it run on SNK Neo Geo hardware feels both completely right and completely wrong at the same time. I've always loved what this game did with the art style. Having this turtle carry the world on his back, definitely something from historical antiquity that was referenced before. Having that in a Golden Axe game just works so well, and it's so much fun to think that this is where the Golden Axe franchise actually got started. You will see this is a two-player gameplay. Andy D helped me with some of the captures, and I'm pretty sure he's playing the dwarf who just maybe elbowed his wife directly in the face in the game. But honestly, Hoffman is doing so many amazing things over on Neo Geo. This is his second Sega port, and I can't wait to see what he does next. If you're wondering what he's going to be doing next, he basically doesn't announce it until he decides what he's going to make. Doesn't really take requests, which makes sense. It's kind of just a love letter to Sega and SNK, porting over what you kind of feel like. And from the gameplay, all of the graphics and everything else, this is an absolutely incredible job. It really does feel like it was developed by a team of people back in the day to release on Neo Geo for the home market. You might see a little bit of flashing at the top when some of those magic spells are used, but remember, this is just the first release, so there can be successive releases that might clean some of this up. But honestly, a few stray lines of pixels at the top, if that's all that's wrong with your first release of a port from a Sega arcade board to the Neo Geo, that is highly commendable work. And the best part is, if you're actually playing this game, the feel is identical to a real Golden Axe board or an arcade release. All of the inputs are responsive, the entire moveset is there, everything has been brought over whole cloth from the Sega arcade board to the Neo Geo, and you'd really have no idea you were actually playing Neo Geo. If you closed your eyes and didn't look at the console, you'd think there was just a Golden Axe arcade PCB under your TV hooked up to a super gun. And it's not just the port, it's not just the Red Book audio that are improvements. Also, Hoffman went in and got some samples from the Hollywood films that Sega borrowed them, air quotes, from back in the day, and got higher bitrate versions of those and reincorporated them back into the game to get even better audio quality. Definitely something that wasn't necessary whatsoever, but you can tell they went the extra mile to just make this one of the quintessential releases of Golden Axe, even if it happened in 2025, and even if it happened on SNK hardware. And that, again, is just absolutely so impressive. And before you ask, why would somebody take the time to port this? We already have arcade perfect versions. The answer always is because you can, and why not? But now it's time to listen to that orchestral soundtrack on the Neo Geo CD version of the game. Go ahead and listen for 45 seconds and hear the Golden Axe music in a brand new way. The music just adds a completely new layer to Golden Axe, and I 100% love it. And just so I am making sure everyone gets their credit, Rich Douglas did the composition for Golden Axe, and he is credited over on Hoffman's website, which I will leave a link to below if you want to check this thing out yourself, because trust me, even if you played Golden Axe dozens of times before, getting in one more playthrough on Neo Geo is a ton of fun. And this thing would be even more fun in a real arcade cabinet, or if you hook it up to your PVM or CRT television on Mr. FPGA, or even real hardware. It does really feel like you're just playing a Bizarro World version of Golden Axe, and again, flying on the back of this eagle here or hawk while you're fighting these skeletons look like they're ripped straight out of Army of Darkness. It's just 100% a vibe that I absolutely love. Now, the first Golden Axe game definitely isn't the best in the franchise. I'd give that to the Revenge of Death Adder, but this is still an iconically classic game that I played the ever-loving hell of as a kid in the arcades, not on Sega Genesis when it was ported home. So getting one more version is a ton of fun, and I especially appreciate that there is a Neo Geo CD build, because even though the Neo Geo CD wasn't anywhere near as successful as the AES and MVS, it is still a fun piece of hardware, and here you can tell that loading basically doesn't exist whatsoever. And on my Neo Geo CDZ with an RGB cable on my PVM, it looked absolutely stunning in motion. The Neo Geo CD always needs more love in my opinion, because for every single new AES or MVS release you see on cart, you rarely have ever see a Neo Geo CD version of the game, and it is one of those things. It is fun hardware, so Hoffman bringing this over to Neo Geo CD with the improved soundtrack is just one of my favorite things so far that's happened in 2025. You can leave me a comment down below if you do own a Neo Geo. Is it AES, MVS, or CD? I would be curious. I have all three, and I definitely think the AES is my favorite, with Neo Geo CD followed in second place, and MVS honestly taking up the rear, even though I still love it. And of course, again, you're going to have to beat the F11 hell out of nose before you go into the final boss fight. And that's the thing about Golden Axe. It is a short game. It's going to take you all of 20 minutes to see everything from start to finish, so definitely, even if you're just curious about this port to Neo Geo, check it out. You can spend a lot worse time in 20 minutes than playing something like Golden Axe. It's just that much fun, and I hope to see some more of these Sega conversions over to Neo Geo just for the fun of it. The Neo Geo library isn't massive, so having more games to play on SNK's hardware is always fun, and getting some of these Sega classics absolutely does it for me as well. The one game I'd love to see running on Neo Geo, even though it's not Sega whatsoever, is Splatterhouse. I think it would be a great time. But one more soundtrack sample, because again, it's completely different than what you get in the arcade original, and I love it. 35 seconds, I'll come back and show you the very weird credit sequence for Golden Axe, which is one of the strangest things Sega's ever done. But enjoy! There's just something about that orchestral arranged soundtrack that gives the game that much more impact and that much more fantasy vibe setting. But again, if you want the original soundtrack for the game, you just play the AES or MVS version. And you are going to have difficulty settings as well as language settings, so you can do Japanese or English, really whatever you want. I do love that arterial spray right there, all the blood just coming out of Death Adder when that battle axe hits him right in the chest. This is just such an iconically good game, a famous Sega game from back in the day that pretty much everyone knows about and has at least played once, but now you can play it from start to finish on the Neo Geo AES, MVS, and CD like it actually came out there back in the day, and that is just so impressive. I absolutely love stuff like this, and I've always loved the ending as well. Basically, kids were playing a game called Great Axe in the arcade, and then suddenly all of the enemies from Golden Axe are able to escape into the real world, into a Sega arcade, and just get out into the public. It is one of the weirder games as far as endings are concerned that Sega's ever made. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me what's the weirdest arcade ending you've ever seen, because I would definitely put Golden Axe very high up there on the list, because I think it is just funny that everyone escapes from the machine and runs into the downtown area. But honestly, this conversion is just one of my favorite things of 2025. It is definitely a just because I can do so thing. Hoffman did an incredible job bringing this game over, and I'll let you know the next time they bring another game to Neo Geo. And again, if you want to try this thing out, I left it in the link below in the description. I've tested it on an AES, I've tested on Neo Geo CD, and on the Mr. FPGA core, and it worked perfectly in every single indication, which is always great. So however you want to play it, the only wrong way to do so is not to play it in the first place. But we're done. I beat the game, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.